CD Projekt Red have updated The Witcher 3 into the next generation, and with this update comes a lot of gameplay features and most importantly them graphical improvements, because we love graphical improvements. But before this update came out, I tested the original game with my main system over here and my testing system with the GTX 1070 inside it. And I thought this would have made a pretty good video comparing the old performance compared to the new performance, so let's see how both these systems get on. All testing today is done at 1440p, which is probably a bit too overkill for the GTX 1070. However, I've done it just for parity between the two systems. My test bench has a Ryzen 5 5600G, 16GB of CL18 3600MHz DDR4 memory, a Sabrent 1TB NVMe Gen 3 SSD and an ASUS Strix B550-F. My main system has a Ryzen 9 3950X, an RTX 3080 10GB Founders Edition, a Gigabyte X570 Aorus Ultra, and it has a Samsung 980 Pro NVMe SSD. Starting off with the test bench today, and we are doing the original game before because that just makes sense, and with the Ultra preset with no hairworks enabled, as I've found that this does tank the performance quite substantially, and I don't think the hair even looks better when you enable hairworks anyways. We've got 68 FPS on average with 55% for the 1% low, and this is pretty good performance, but The Witcher 3 did come out in 2015, so yeah, this is to be expected. Switching up to the next gen version now, and the game looks a lot better. The textures have had a massive improvement, and I can see there's quite a lot of tessellation on the cobblestone on the floor too. Again, with the Ultra preset and no hairworks enabled, the GTX 1070 got 55 FPS on average with 38 FPS for the 1% low. So this is pretty much in line with what I was expecting, to be honest. And yeah, it's not bad performance at all. Switch this up to 1080p, you will be easily getting over 60 FPS, and this was done in the laggiest part of the game as well, which is Hierarch Square in Novigrad. My main PC should have no issue with The Witcher 3, or so I thought. The original game at Ultra with no hairworks enabled, so the same preset as what we did with the 1070, it got 127 FPS on average with 86 FPS for the 1% low. Not bad performance, right? It was pretty good. This is where things go downhill with the next gen version. I tried two different presets with Ultra with no hairworks and Ultra ray tracing as well. No hairworks for that as well. On the Ultra preset, we got 70 FPS on average with 49 FPS for the 1% low. The utilisation for the GPU was very poor here. I was getting around 50 to 60% utilisation, and I'm not quite sure what was causing this. I don't think my 3950X was holding up my GPU here. Switching up to the Ultra ray tracing with no hairworks, we set DLSS to quality, as I tend to do when I enable ray tracing, because ray tracing does have a massive hit on your hardware. And we got 36 FPS on average with 25 FPS for the 1% low. This was borderline unplayable because the frame rate was just jumping all over the place. The 1% lows, they were a lot worse than what it seems on paper, so yeah, I don't know what is going on here. Maybe some sort of utilisation bug with Ampere 30 series cards, I'm not quite sure. All in all, I'm pretty impressed with the GTX 1070's performance. It held up surprisingly well, considering that this was 1440p too. This card was originally designed for 1440p around the time of the original game's launch, so I'm not too surprised there. But when the game was enhanced, it still held up pretty well at 1440p ultra settings, but with them hairworks turned off. If you're playing at 1080p with the GTX 1070, I'm sure the gameplay will be perfectly fine and you'll have a great experience playing. However, the RTX 3080 performed really poorly here. I'm not quite sure why. The original game, it performed okay. There was a bit of a bottleneck there. We wasn't fully GPU bound. And it got even worse with the enhanced edition with just utterly unplayable frame rates. It was jumping around quite a lot, and when I was testing it, it didn't feel great at all. So I'm not too sure what is causing this. I might have to do a retest sometime in the future. Let me know if you're playing The Witcher 3 and getting any sort of performance issues, especially if you're on Ampere like me, because the 10 series cards seem to perform just well on this thing. So I'm not sure if it's some system setting I've got disabled or something's there. on my main PC. I'm not sure what's causing it, so yeah. So long story short, the GTX 1070, pretty good performance there. Very impressed with this card. It continues to impress me, the 1070, because it just is aged like fine wine. It's quite rare for Nvidia cards to age better than AMD's cards, but they seem to have done it with the 10 series, so props to you, Nvidia. But the RTX 3080 performance, as I've just said, not great at all. I don't know what's causing it, so if you've got any fixes, or if you've come into experience with problems like this on the Witcher 3 Enhanced Edition, let me know and I will make a follow-up video to this. However, with all that being said, I'm going to leave the video here. So if you like this video, like it, stay subscribed for more tech content, because I've got more on the way, especially with that GTX 1070, and I'll catch you in the next one.